Good morning. Before we start the meeting, I just wanted to point out that there are free refreshments in the back. Feel free to grab some and bring them to your seat. Also, wanted to tell you that if you have a question during the meeting, there are some runners with index cards, so just flag someone down. You can write your question on the index card. Someone will pick it up, and then we'll sort them out and give them to the appropriate speaker for responses. Also, I wanted to point out that the Historical Society has a table in the back, so be sure to stop by and visit them. And we had sent out a link to an online survey for the Council on Aging. If you haven't filled that out, please go ahead and do so. That will be really helpful information. And we welcome you back to the Elks. We're so excited to be here. We have several new members. Can you raise your hand if you're a new member? Yay, well, welcome. Also, just out of curiosity, raise your hand if your primary residence is in Massachusetts. Okay, what if it's in New England? Okay, all of us, but elsewhere in the U.S.? Wow. And overseas? Higher. Okay, a few of you. So that's great information. And thanks so much for making today's meeting a priority. I know you could choose to do anything with your day. Okay, so we'll start the meeting, and we'll start off by sharing committee reports from some of our board members. And a few times during the meeting, we'll ask you for your participation to vote. At those times, we'll just ask you to raise your hand. You'll be voting on approving minutes, also approving a budget, and candidate nominations. We're very fortunate that we have 4 new candidates who have stepped up to be part of the board. And if anyone in the audience would like to join the board, please see any of us to get more information. Our guest speakers today include Leslie Reynolds from the National Seashore and Jackie Beebe, Eastham's town administrator, has brought several town officials with her. And they'll all be giving updates. So thank you to all of the speakers who have come today. We really appreciate hearing from all of you. And now I'll pass it over to Carolyn Gorska-Thurleman, who will give us the Secretary's report.
Good morning, everyone. So before we go to approve the minutes of the meeting, I'd like to give I'd like to give a quick recap of our last member meeting, which was held virtually on February 2nd of this year. At the meeting, Mary, our president, called the meeting to order. And in my absence, Hilda Maroli acted as secretary. Jen King, the treasurer, gave an income statement of 2020 versus 2021 and reported that there was an increase of a little more than $5,000 in our assets over 2022. George Lee, the EPERDA membership chair, reported that currently there are a record high 1,497 members. And he announced that members who have been in arrears in dues since 2018 will not be automatically dropped until the day after this meeting. So if you're in arrears with your dues, please pay up today. Greg Bowie, EPERDA newsletter chair, talked about the newsletters and the coming formats and dates. And Sue Connor, nominations chair, presented the slates of nominations which will be voted on at this meeting today for new members. So for guest speakers, Mary introduced Joan Lockhart, chairperson of the Eastham Council on Aging, a volunteer organization which focuses on the needs of seniors in Eastham. She discussed the council's strategic plan, which has recently been developed and which focuses on how best Eastham can plan for the future of the aging population. At the present time, 60% of Eastham residents are 59 or over, and this number is expanding rapidly. The council has also reached out to the Tea Time Committee to discuss plans for a community center, which would include a senior center. Joan reviewed the coalition's strategic plan phases, and her comments included aging in Eastham, and they're conducting a survey with Massachusetts McCormick School of Gerontology. And the survey is to identify residents' needs. And she's very interested in having input from part-time residents because a recent survey conducted by the Cape Cod Commission showed that 60% of owners plan to move to the Cape now, and 88% plan to move here at some time. So if you can respond to that survey. And then Jackie, our town administrator, introduced Dan Keene, the new fire chief, and Dan introduced Lisa Albino, the new deputy fire chief. And Lisa is the first woman deputy fire chief on the Cape. And she's been in the Eastham Fire Department since 1987. Dan also reported different things, that there are 23 full-time firefighters, and he has 4 to 5 paramedics on duty at all times. Last year, the department responded to 2,400 calls. 36 were fires, and 818 transports to Cape Cod Hospital. So that was kind of interesting. And he reported that 90% of the homes in Eastham are now adjacent to fire hydrants, and he recommended that homeowners inform their insurance agents as this could affect the home insurance rates. All right? And they also iterated the importance of having houses numbered so that they can be found if there's an emergency. Jackie then introduced Autorino.
It's close.
Chairperson of the Select Board. And Art reported on the board discussion of the residential tax exemption, which took place at the last board meeting. And he explained that the RTE is required by policy to be discussed at the January board meeting. The policy states that the split of 60% non-residents to 40% residents needs to be in place before the RTE can be implemented. Although the present split is 55-45, Art reported that this year the discussion was very intense and the final vote was 3-1 against implementing the RTE, which essentially means higher taxes for non-residents. And Art thanked Mary for calling in and providing the board with the part-time resident perspective. And he felt her call made a difference to the vote, and Art reminded everyone that the RTE will be reviewed by the Select Board again next January, and that part-time residents need to be heard. So I just wanted to stress that. Jackie then introduced Paul Legg, the town planner, and Carolyn McPherson from the Eastham Affordable Housing Trust. Paul introduced the concept of accessory dwelling units, ADUs, which Eastham is hoping to use as a tool to help manage the affordable housing crisis in Eastham. He stated the town is working with Comprehensive Community Housing Plan, which has a loan program which homeowners could use to offset building costs. And Carolyn McPherson, the chair of the East Hampton Housing Trust, shared how the new ADUs could help senior citizens by providing them an option for converting their large homes and property to generate new income. Jackie then reported on the wonderful response Eastham received from Eversource during the recent blizzard. And she reminded everyone that they should sign up for Eversource text messages so they would know the status of the power at their homes. And then there was about the master plan of the tea time in the town center. It's been signed with Union Studio, an architectural company from Rhode Island. And the new proposed zoning bylaws changes will be more inclusionary, encourage affordability, tighter density open spaces, etc. She also shared that there is a plan to decommission a nuclear power plant in Plymouth, and the initial discussions had included the discharge of wastewater into Cape Cod Bay waterways. Yeah, so all Cape Towns reached out to state legislators to reject this, and at present, this is on hold. Jackie responded to a question regarding wastewater management, and she said at this point there is a plan to provide some management system for parcels of land along Route 6 and around some of the water areas. The meeting was adjourned at 7:38 p.m. So my recap was based on the minutes of the meeting that you should received in an email. So are there any additions or corrections to the minutes that you have received?
I have one.
Yes, please.
The Council on Aging is not a nonprofit organization. It is a town department supported by your taxes.
Thank you. Okay. I'll do a definition, a clarification in the minutes. Okay. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented with a slight modification and the documents sent to you? Jen? May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. So the minutes have been accepted. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? Okay, thank you. The minutes have been accepted. Next will be Jen King, who will give us the treasurer's report.
Good morning, everyone. In your packet, you have some of the slides that I will go over. The first slide that is going to be up, you do not have in your packet. This is just a brief overview of the income statement as of year end. So to briefly go over that, we had a gross profit of $22,767.23. Our largest expenses are always our administrator and marketing and newsletters. And so our net income for last year was $2,676.45. So I just put that in there. Some of you might have seen that in the February meeting, but just wanted to touch base on that. So the slide that is in your handout and is also on the screen now is the income statement year-to-date as of July 6th, a couple of days ago, which is basically half of what, half of what the year-end one was. Again, our largest expense is our administrator, which as of right now is $6,854. Our membership dues are running about half of what they are year-end. We have $12,562 in dues. We just sent out our marketing letter, which goes out to all new residents, all new part-time residents. So that always costs about $1,000. So this year was $896. And then our other expenses are postage and PayPal and things like that. So right now we have a net income of $3,536.98. we will have some more expenses for renting the hall and for this meeting. The next sheet here is, again, the balance sheet as of year end, which is not in your packet, but again, was talked about in February. But to just briefly summarize that, we had total assets of $59,752.40. And we had an accounts payable, which is a gift that we have to give to the Council on Aging. Right now, they are in kind of limbo of maybe changing buildings, and so we haven't given them the gift because they haven't asked for it, but we had earmarked money towards the Council on Aging. So that will be given to them when they're ready to figure out what they need to buy with it. They were going to buy umbrellas, but now everything is changing, and so it was a waste of money to give them money for umbrellas when it's not going to be there. So that's the balance sheet as of year end, 59,752. And now the next, I know you guys aren't here for me, you're here for her. So the next slide is the 2022, and this is in your packet, the 2022 versus 2021 balance sheet comparison. And these are as of July 6, 2021 and July 6, 2022. So our current assets are just a little bit short of what they were in 2021. They were 64,467 in 2021, and now they're 62,764. The security deposit was prepaid. It was a deposit for the Elks from the last 2 years, so we use that today. But that security deposit will be gone after this year. And again, the accounts payable that wasn't there in 2021, that's there now, is that Council on Aging gift. So our total liabilities and equity is down about $1,700 from the previous year at this time. The next slide is the 2021 plan versus actual budget. So I have a column there that has the comments on this. Our membership dues are just slightly down, a little bit less due to COVID and lack of in-person meetings. We usually get a lot of dues from people coming in this door. We also are now sending out 3 newsletters instead of 4, so that's one less reminder to people to send in their dues. But that did just go up a lot from our marketing letter that we sent out in the last newsletter. So expenses, there was a cost of living adjustment for our administrator, our board of directors expenses, our Zoom and newspaper subscriptions, our community outreach. The $200 we almost always give is for the Windmill Weekend, which we haven't given for a few years, but since that's up for that gift to the Council on Aging. Other big expenses, marketing. That was a little bit less than we normally do because the amnesty letter was sent out late because the newsletter was sent out a little bit late. So that amount was less than we had expected. No in-person meetings, so we saved a lot of money there, and 3 newsletters instead of the 4. The other expenses, like the treasurer expenses, are for QuickBooks and postage and constant contact. So we had expected a budget of the net income we expected was $810, and we actually had $2,676. So that was $1,866 more than expected. So the last slide I have here is the 2023 proposed budget, which we are not recommending any changes from the last year. You can see all of the budgets of the last 5 years. We are looking to have the same exact 2023 budget as in 2022. Tongue twister. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, not hearing anyone. I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2023 proposed budget. So, second? All in favor? Any objections? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, George, sorry. She'll introduce you. All right.
Good morning. My name is George Lee. I'm the membership chair. It's good to actually have an in-person meeting again and to see some familiar faces. The first slide shows our membership update. And you can see that as of a couple of days ago, we had a record high number of members, 1,509 members. Okay, the next slide. Okay, so one thing that I think should be explained on this pie graph is that red pie, the members from 2018. Normally, they would have been dropped from our membership since they hadn't paid dues in quite a while. However, the amnesty letter did not go out in fall 2021, and because the newsletter was late. So the members in arrears from 2018 were not dropped as planned. Also, many members pay their dues when they come to this meeting, in person. So we felt we should give them an extra chance to pay up before we actually drop them. But those 102 members will be dropped at the end of this meeting, if they have not paid. Okay, next slide. Okay, in 2021, the amnesty letter was not sent out. The amnesty letter is a letter reminding people that they have not paid their recent dues and giving them a chance to be up to date. In this past June, 728 marketing letters were sent out to Eastham part-time residents. Most of those were new part-time residents, but some were people who had been part-time residents for a while. And we found that that mix actually gives us a fairly good number of new members. So far we've got 22 new members, and 7 members have been removed, and 2 of them are now full-time residents. 320 or 50% of our members paid their dues using PayPal. We appreciate it when you pay your dues using PayPal. You don't need an account, you can just use your credit card. So it's actually quite easy to pay your dues that way online. And it makes less paperwork for the volunteers, so we appreciate that. And first of all, we would like to have good emails for everybody. You can see generally we do, but there are 14 people with bad emails. I saw one person today who will give us the correct email. So if you expect to get the newsletter by email and you're not getting it, it could be because we have the wrong email address. So you should be sure that we do have the correct email address. And then there are 57 people who have not given us an email. We appreciate getting an email if that's possible. As far as newsletter delivery, you can see that about 3/4 of our members get the newsletter electronically. It makes it easy for you then to forward it to family members and others who might be interested. So we would encourage you to get the newsletter electronically. Okay, are there any questions? Okay, then good to see everybody, and hopefully we'll have in-person meetings in the future.
The other time that we're basically from out of town, could you have a sign perhaps, at least for this season, to direct people, like right there on the road so they don't enter into that? Like 3 or 4 cars queue up there, so, but then 2 or 3 of them may not be Eastham residents until they get to the booth and they see the sign and realize their mistake.
So they didn't have a sticker? You saw that
They didn't have stickers, or so they were, that right out of time, but they queued up for some, because I think with the moving the hut or whatever your office is for the construction, I think people sort of sense that that may be the entrance to the beach rather than going around that construction of that building into
Okay.
the main entrance.
Great, thanks for letting me know. Okay, any other questions?
Jerry Bailey, I'm also a resident of Lake Beach Road. And I just wanted to reinforce what Amy just said. There's a great concern about the pole that provides power for all of the houses up that road. I had a very encouraging meeting with Jackie a couple of weeks ago, and she indicated it was hope that
It would be, all right, you're spoken. All right, good.
Power brought up the new road, the new Nauset Lake Beach Road, that is, as well as possibly internet. But I understand that the swap of the land has not occurred yet, and maybe you could address that.
It's in progress. Yeah, it's,
Any idea of the timeframe?
you know, I'm not aware of the time frame, but I do know it's in progress. Jackie will talk to that.
Thank you.
Is the seashore piloting drones with the shark?
No, we're not. Actually, there was an executive order issued by the President of the United States that the Department of Interior cannot utilize drones except for imminent life-threatening emergencies like a lost child, for instance, or during a wildland fire. So do I see that loosening up at some point in my time here at the seashore? Perhaps, but right now, the Department of Interior cannot.
If I could just voice a suggestion, I'd be happy if you never had drones over the beach. Long Island beaches are awash with them. They're a revolting thing. The beaches here are so nice and quiet. I wouldn't want to change that to drones.
And I will say, a few years ago, we the town's Nantucket Shark Conservancy, the seashore, we contracted to have a feasibility study done on technology for shark safety, because we were just getting inundated with various technologies that claimed that they could, you know, spot sharks. And so that's an interesting read, because again, I go back to kind of my soapbox that human behavior is going to keep you the safest. And recreating at low tide and when lifeguards are on duty. Technology is only good if it's working and it misses things. It misses things. So, sir?
Yeah, one other quick question is on the, I don't know if the seashore has jurisdiction over the Orleans side of Nauset State, basically the entrance into the salt marsh up on the South Coast Guard Beach. But my wife and I have noticed twice in the last month that people on that side are going out to the same bars where the seals are and disturbing the low tide. And then you've got hundreds of seals vacating and then discouraged. People on the eastern side seem to get it and not do it. But there's not a sign on the eastern side nor a sign on the Orleans side that might be helpful. Because I know sometimes you have docents down there.
Yeah, wondering if they're accessing that by boat.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that gets a little trickier. But good to know.
No, they can hike. I mean, I'm talking about even inside the marsh where they hang out. So you can walk, if you're walking on the Orleans side.
You can walk all the way out
You
there.
can walk, it's not
Usually
open,
that
it's
whole
actually-
area, you can't get through it right now because of the nesting shorebirds, but, okay, I'll take a look at it. I'll take a
I
look.
don't even know whether you
Yeah.
have jurisdiction on the Orleans side.
Yeah. Yeah, the jurisdiction's kind of tricky there. You know, it definitely
Maybe
is.
the eastern side too.
Yeah, because, you know, on the other side, it's us, right, the Coast Guard SPID, and then you have different sections of land, Eastham, right, a little bit of seashore, and then Orleans. So it can be a little tricky out there, but I'll take a look. Sir, way in the back of the hat.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm grateful for the National Seashore upgrading the restrooms on the Nauset Lake Beach. To me, it seems like it's a project that's been going on for a while, and you may have said this, but what's the completion date?
I was really vague. I said it's soon. It, you know, I can finally say that, you know, the
Summer soon? or
yeah,
like-
yes. As a matter of fact, they just did the septic test earlier this week. So I'm really, really optimistic. And I can be a little political and kind of dodge, but I am telling you that it'll be soon.
Right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
And then the Nauset Lake Beach does look really good now that it's getting close to being finished. Just one question, the parking, there used to be parking that you could look out onto the beach. It looks like that's permanently gone, and normally the other part of it though is that maybe more so in the off-season, it was always nice to just be able to drive up there, look for 5, 10, 15 minutes and leave. Is there any chance that that might change or?
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, you know, I go to Sam's, get a little coffee, go out there and talk to my dad, so I completely understand it. What happened, what's been happening is erosion, right? So the cliff is right on the edge of those parking spaces. And the Center for Coastal Studies is monitoring that bluff right there, and they're gonna present to us at the end of this month what's actively happening there. So right now I can say that it's probably gonna be permanently, because I think that's actually gonna fall over onto the beach, unfortunately. Yeah. And I think, ultimately, as the Nauset Lake Beach parking area erodes, right now we're actively in a planning process to look at alternatives for an off-site parking lot that will involve a tram system to that beach, I think. And we all know that happened in, 1978 with the blizzard and what Coast Guard and Little Creek looks like now, and it works. So I think in our future, it's going to look something like that someday. Yeah. Okay. I think my time is probably up. Thank you. We're good. Okay. All right.
So good morning. Thank you for being so patient. I'm going to do my roundabout speech at the end, sort of tie everything together. So I'm going to introduce you to my staff first, and they'll do their pieces, and then we'll take a lot of questions. We're waiting still for Melanie McKenzie, who's at a library trustee meeting, our new library director, but she will be here shortly. So by the end of the presentation, she'll be the last one. But I want to start today with our economic development planner, Lauren Barker. Lauren is new to you. She's been working for the town of Eastham for over a year. She's phenomenal, and she's doing a lot of special projects for us, including managing the master planning process. So she's going to talk to you about that. Then we'll go to Deputy Fire Chief Albino.
Thank you, Jackie. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lauren Barker. I'm the Economic Development Planner for the town of Eastham. And as Jackie said, I've been with the town about a year and a half now. My background is mixed nonprofit and public administration work. So I've worked for government agencies as well as nonprofits, running programs, running organizations, and I'm super happy to be here at the town. I live here year-round with my husband and 2 kids in North Eastham. So happy to talk with you today about what we have going on with the master plan project. I want to start by asking who is familiar already or has heard of the master plan project. I think it was mentioned in the minutes from the last meeting and the discussion last time. And what about the tea time committee process? Great. Hopefully a lot of you participated in that process and have kept in the loop about the master plan project up to this time. So for those who aren't familiar with it, the master plan, or the North Eastham Village Center master plan, which is the longer name for it, is a project that builds on the multiple years of community-led planning efforts that were started by the Tea Time Committee and the acquisition of the Tea Time property at 4790 State Highway in North Eastham by the town in 2019. So we now have the opportunity, the Tea Time property together with the Town Center Plaza property just up the road at 4550 State Highway. The town now owns that property too. And we're looking at these comprehensively to try to determine the best possible layouts and schemes that could apply the findings and recommendations made by the Tea Time Committee in their extensive 2 years of work that they completed just at the end of last year. So once this project is done and we have a final master plan report and maps and all of the great things that go along with that, this will really provide us with a roadmap and a clear community vision that we can share with prospective redevelopment partners for these properties. So it's about our community taking control and casting a vision for what we want to see happen with these town-owned parcels. And the goal is to really ensure that the community's needs and values are reinforced through any redevelopment efforts. So this is a little bit unique. I want to acknowledge that it may be new as a process. It's kind of an extra step in the process from what you might normally see with a redevelopment project that involves a town or a government agency. But we feel it's really important to put that process in the hands of our community members, both year-round and seasonal residents. So the final plan, when it's finished, will include not just scenarios for each site, there'll be conceptual levels, so we're not talking blueprints here. It'll be a concept layout for each property that's a preferred scenario. That will still be subject to a developer or a partner coming in and determining what's feasible for them, but the goal would be to have that pretty well locked down, what the community and the town are looking for each property. And then the final report will also include cost scenarios, some potential funding options, the goal being to minimize the impact on taxpayers in the long run. There's lots of great funding opportunities coming down for economic development, transportation, infrastructure, wastewater. We are monitoring those really closely at the state and federal level and are working really hard to try to identify opportunities where those could help to offset the costs associated with these projects. And then lastly, the final project will include some phasing recommendations for construction. So an acknowledgement that this isn't something that could probably just happen overnight, both properties being redeveloped. We want to see some options for phasing, and our partner, Union Studio, who's the consultant leading this project, will be presenting that as part of their final report. So I want to also bring up the Council on Aging, because you may have noticed that I've just been talking about the Town Center Plaza and the Tea Time properties. The Council on Aging property at 1405 Nauset Road is also subject of this master plan process. And that is because in the Tea Time Committee's recommendations, there was a recommendation to move potentially Council on Aging operations to a new intergenerational community center that could be sited on the Tea Time property. So that is the recommendation that was made, and we're using that as a basis. So as part of this process, the COA property is also being considered for possible future uses. And the Tea Time Committee's recommendation was to use that site for housing, which is compatible with what's currently there. So perhaps something that is senior-oriented housing is on the table, but that is in the process of this master plan too. So where are we with the project now? I can tell you that we've conducted 2 public workshops, one in May, one in June. And after each of these public workshops, there was a virtual meeting component that was made available on our project website. I have some flyers that I put on the table at the back. If you are interested in grabbing one of those, they do have the project website on it, but it's pretty easy to remember. It's northeastham.masterplan.com. So you can currently go to that site and view all the meeting materials that you would have seen if you were unable to make those workshops. And there is a survey that you can take that will walk you through the concepts that have been presented to date for each of these 3 sites being considered through the master plan. And it's a really neat survey because you can rank from 1 to 10 how well you think these draft concepts satisfy the recommendations made by the Tea Time Committee and our needs as a community here in Eastham. So we're really excited to have you all participate in that survey. It will be open. We've extended it through the end of this month. And then after that time, we'll be taking all that input, compiling it with the analysis that our Union Studio team and their consultant partners have done to date on this project. And then by October, we will hold the 3rd and final public workshop that will present the final draft concepts for each property. Now again, at this point, we are not going to be presenting blueprints or as-built designs for these properties or for specific buildings, but you will get something that we could present to prospective redevelopment partners to illustrate to them what we're hoping to get out of a redevelopment process. So I noticed in reading the bios of your boards, there's a lot of great expertise in this room. We have people with public administration backgrounds, civil engineering. We would love to have your input, and not just those with the expertise, but anyone who is living here and cares about the future of the community and wants to see some needs met. We have such a wonderful opportunity with these 3 properties to really take this and use it as a catalyst to get some needs met creatively here in our town, but also really reinforce the character and the history and what makes Eastham Eastham. So we want to get that balance right, and we need your help in order to do that. Lastly, I'll tell you where you can find more information. I mentioned the project website. We also have a Facebook page. It's Eastham Master Plan is the handle. And then additionally, you can contact me directly if you have any questions about the project or want to give feedback directly outside of the survey. I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody at any time. And my contact information again is on that flyer, and I do have some cards here as well that I'm happy to hand out. So I can take questions if you have them. Yes, sir.
Yes, maybe all of this information is on the website, in which case you can just refer us to it. But I'm wondering if you can tell us whether there's been agreement on any specific criteria for each area and also in total, whether that's concentration or height of buildings or environmental preservation, traffic.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll start by saying the current zoning for where these properties are located does dictate some of that. So building height, for example, can't go over 2 stories under current zoning. There are some density restrictions that are in place. However, we do have some development guidelines from the Tea Time Committee that they presented along with their recommendations for the use of each property and what could go on there. They also made recommendations for how that development should happen, and it included things like an eye toward climate resiliency for the properties, making sure that we are adhering to best practices for smart growth, which are outlined by the state. They're really fantastic if you have not seen them. They recommend citing any growth which is inevitable. I think that's the important point to make. Eastham's growing. You've seen it in your membership. We've seen it in our population numbers the last couple of years. That growth is happening, and I think our Tea Time Committee and our team here is interested more in how can we help to direct that and shape that. So the growth is already coming, and how are we going to make sure that it's the type of growth that we want to see. And the Tea Time Committee's recommendations did include some great notes on that. That is linked on the project website, so you can find it. And then the Tea Time Committee had their own project website at easthamteatime.org. Did you want to hold? Okay. Jackie's recommending that we hold any additional questions till the end. So thank you very much for having me, and please reach out if you want to talk directly with me. I'm happy to do that. Thank you.
If you do have a question, we can get an index card to you, and then we'll collect the questions that you have.
Not used to a mic, so I have my voice kind of projects, so I hope that, for those of you who do not know me, I am Lisa Albino. I am the Deputy Fire Chief here in town, newly promoted in January. To give you a little bit of background, I did grow up here in town. I did graduate from Nauset. I make my home here in town. I work here. I've been with the department for 35 years. Just completed my 35th year. Thought I was going to retire, but moved up. I have an extensive medical background. I am also an RN. I graduated from nursing school back in '87 and started my career with the Eastham Fire Department 2 days after graduation. And never looked back. It's a great department to work for, a great town to work for. I'm going to keep this short. My biggest mantra right now is help us find you. And that starts with, we don't want to have a delayed response for your emergency, whether it be a medical emergency or a fire. And that starts with street signs, and the town just passed a new bylaw for street signs. We want to try and make everything uniform. We have a lot of private roads, especially on the Bayside, that are dirt roads that maybe don't have a street sign. We're very fortunate here in town to be staffed very well with firefighters and paramedics, police officers, but not everybody that works for us grew up here in town. I know a lot of the roads because of that, but they need to be marked clearly, and the DPW has been helping us get street signs out onto the private ways that maybe don't have a sign. It may be up in the tree. We're not going to take down your signs that were made for you. We will leave those, but we are kind of canvassing the town to make sure that we can find you. With that also, some of the private roads are overgrown, and we want to make sure that we can get the ambulance and the engine down to you. So we start with the street signs, and the next thing we move to is house numbers. House numbers are very important for us. A lot of people that I come in contact with, whether it be for an inspection, for a resale, or they're having problems with their smoke detectors, we look for your house numbers. A lot of people will tell us, oh, well, it's on the mailbox. Here in town, not all mailboxes are at the end of people's driveways. So they may be on one side of the road, the mailboxes, and your house is on the other side. So there is a regulation and a bylaw that your house numbers have to be affixed to your house. They need to be contrasting colors, they need to be 4 inches in height, so that we can see them during the day and at night. And I would encourage any of you, when you go home, can you see your number? Can you see your number on your house? Sometimes there may be some overgrowth of bushes and plants, and then I know the springtime, everybody's doing construction, painting, maybe those house numbers came off, they never got put back on. They help us. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Greg Bowie. I'm the newsletter chair. And as George has mentioned, 25% of our members still receive the newsletter by mail. So I wanted to encourage you, if you would like, to make sure your email information is up to date and make a choice, if you'd like, to receive these electronically. And there's 3 benefits to that. So one is, if you have family or friends that have an interest, you can easily forward that information to them. Secondly, within the newsletter, we always put hot links. So if there's an article like we talked about later about the Nauset Beach improvements, there's a link to that. You could go right to that and get more details than what's in the newsletter. And then thirdly, as shown by Jen's talk, there's a cost to mailing. So it saves the organization. So at the bottom line, there's more to share in the community because we do give gifts based on what our excess revenue is at the end of the year. So there's 3 benefits to getting the newsletter electronically if you'd like. Also, if you have any comments or things you'd like to see included in the newsletter, just let us know. It's the eprta.org website. Just go on there, click on contact, and it'll have ways to email or snail mail by mail to us. Give us your input. So thank you very much, and have a good meeting and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. How nice it is to be in person for a change. Really, really nice. I am going to present to you today some of our board members who need to be renominated and voted. Our sessions or our commitment is for 2 years. So we have some folks that need to be voted on again. And we have 4 new potential board members. So bear with me. You also, it's up on the monitor, but it is also their backgrounds and names and backgrounds are in with your handout this morning. I am also going to ask that as I say your name, the nominees, please stand. I want everybody to be able to put a face with the name. Thanks. First of all, our re-nominees, our President, Mary Pikars, our Vice President, John McEwen, up and back there. No hiding, John. Our secretary, who we've already heard from, Carolyn Thurliman. And our treasurer, Jen Keene. Some of our directors, Jean Tierney, Greg Bowie, who you have also heard from, George Lee for renomination, Barbara Reed, who is in charge of our refreshments, so we need to keep her around. And Hilda Maroli. Oh, okay. Our new nominees for the board, joining the board this year, Jeff Benjamin, Wendy Gamba, oh, she is, okay. Kathy Daw, and last but not least, Tom McNamara. How could I mess up an Irish name? Sorry. Okay. All right, that is the slate for this year. I'm going to ask for a nomination to accept our board as presented. Thank you, John. And a second. Does everyone agree that we will nominate these people? Awesome. Thank you. That is your new board of directors.
So our first speaker is Leslie Reynolds, who is the Deputy Superintendent of the National Seashore.
Grab my water. You're not going to talk for that long, are you?
Well, somebody's going to have to give me the hook. Good morning, everybody. Everyone can hear me? Okay, so my name's Leslie Reynolds. Just a little bit about me. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I've been with the National Park Service for 27 years. I started my career in 1995 at Yosemite National Park. Most of my career has been in emergency services in the division called Visitor and Resource Protection. So I've Grand Canyon, Yosemite, Shenandoah, Cape Cod National Seashore, Yellowstone, and I just got back from a detail at the newest national park in the system, New River Gorge National Park and Preserve, and I was there throughout the winter. So I was promoted into the deputy superintendent position from the chief ranger position here right in the middle of COVID about a year and a half ago. So it's been great fun, definitely, right? So my focus is really the internal operations within the park, and our park superintendent, we wished he could be here today, but unfortunately he can't. He's the external face to the park. So happy to be here. I want to do a few plugs for the National Seashore right now. We have two visitor centers. I think most of you know Salt Pond Visitor Center right in Eastham, and then the Province Lands, which is off the Race Point Road. And we have this wonderful newspaper called The Trip Planner. And if you don't have a copy of this yet, I encourage you to pick one up. It's filled with some fabulous information, what to do, some safety regulations, where hiking trails are, and a great section on all of our cultural resources, and then how you can be involved, whether you want to volunteer or become a member of our Friends group. So I encourage you guys to pick one up. I would have brought one for everybody, but I didn't think of that. I should have. We also have our activity guide. It's a monthly activity guide. This is July's. We're printing out August pretty soon. It's a fabulous list of everything we have to offer throughout the park. And it's wonderful. But you can also find all of this on our fabulous webpage as well. And the great thing about our webpage now is the National Park Service introduced what's called the NPS app, National Park Service app. So if you don't have that on your phone and you're a techie and you want it on your phone, just download it. It's free. You can navigate to all the parks. And what it does, it'll link our webpage up to your app so you can read all about whatever park you're visiting, including ours. So you can get the latest and greatest. And also, you can pick up a flyer or two of our summer evenings at Salt Pond Visitor Center. Every Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll either have a music performer or we'll have a lecture. Sometimes those are inside because of PowerPoints, but we're having our symphony back again this year. So that's August 26th. So we haven't had the symphony in a couple years due to COVID. So that's exciting news for everybody. So let's get the slides rolling here. Okay, we can go to the next one. All right, so that's the agenda. So I'll focus on summer operations and some project updates. So as we emerge from COVID, knocking on wood, this is the first summer in a few years that we are really fully operational. We have our fee collectors and our lifeguards and our law enforcement and our maintenance and interpretation and our interns, and we were able to fill most of all of our beds in housing, where the past couple of years we have not been able to use all our beds in housing, so our staff has been pretty minimal. But as I'm sure you all have noticed, the visitation has increased dramatically, so it's been very challenging, but this year I'm happy to report that we are at full operation. Next slide. We always like to bring up the lifeguards, especially in the summertime. It's their 60th year at Cape Cod National Seashore. It's pretty impressive. I'm really proud of this program. We have 47 lifeguards hired this year. A lot of them are returnees. They're dual professionals. A lot of them are teachers in the off-season or they're students. They're here from the third Thursday in June through Labor Day. And I always encourage people, if you're recreating in the water off our oceanside beaches, that you do so when our lifeguards are on duty. Although the sharks get a lot of play, what really keeps our lifeguards busy is the riptides and the shore breaks, right? And I'm always a fan of recreating at low tide, to keep you really close to shore. Next slide. This is a graphic I borrowed from South Wales in Australia. It's just a great graphic that demonstrates ocean safety. I think you want to maybe turn it into a t-shirt. It's very popular. But it's all the safety recommendations we have on the beaches, from staying close to shore, to being aware of riptides, to our emergency call boxes where they're located, our Stop to Bleed kits. Sharktivity is another app if you're not using yet, as a way to report shark sightings or even follow where the shark sightings are. And then we're doing an incredible amount of research off our shores, not just the National Park Service, but Center for Coastal Studies and other science organizations to try to determine the sharks' behaviors and when they're going to be here. But again, the most calls that the lifeguards respond to are the riptides and the shore breaks, so I don't want people to forget that. Next slide. We do have ORV operations. I know this slide is saying it's closed. It's only closed because they're shorebirds. We have so many shorebirds this year. I think we really lucked out because we didn't have, sometimes we have really bad spring storms, right? And the shorebirds, the plovers in particular, they lay the eggs, and then the storms sweep the eggs, into the sea, and then they renest and they continue to renest. And so generally, our ORV can be closed, well into August. But this year, because we haven't had a lack of storms, we're doing really well. We actually have 115 pairs on our beaches right now, 33 active nests and 53 broods, and we are starting to fledge, we are not starting, the chicks are starting to fledge, which is really, really good news, you guys. It's good news for the birds, but it's also good news for people who really enjoy our driving on our beaches.
Can I ask a question? Yeah. What does ORV stand for?
Oh, sorry, off-road vehicle operation. So this is when you're driving on the beach.
On the beach, okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. Next slide, please. Another popular activity on our beaches is you can get a permit. They're still free to have a beach fire, and you can either call or visit our visitor centers 3 days in advance of when you want the permit. And it's actually a very enjoyable activity if you haven't done it before. And then when you go in, they'll give you kind of the rules of the road on how to stay safe while enjoying this activity. Next slide. Okay. We had a couple PowerPoints go back and forth, so I'm just going to skip. So I'm going to focus here on our projects. So next slide. So highlight some of them. So the Coast Guard station, and this is also, you're not seeing a picture of it, but it includes the bathhouse as well. Repainted, new roof, the bathhouse inside got completely redone. It's kind of an old picture, we'll have to update that, but you'll notice now it's got the beautiful green shingles on it. So we did a lot of work on this cultural resource recently. And down below the Coast Guard station, that's the Penniman House barn. That was recently redone. The Penniman House actually was redone a few years ago, at least the outside of it. It just looks beautiful. And the interior right now is getting a lot of work done too. The wallpaper, furnishings. So when that's done, that's going to be quite impressive. And do some of you remember the whalebone art that used to be there? So that is being fabricated now. So my hope is that that will be installed some point this year, if not close to next year. But the older whalebone was falling apart and birds were nesting in it, and it was starting to be a hazard, so that had to come down. So we're all looking forward to that. Next slide. Yes, so the bathhouse, woo! Okay, we're almost there, folks. The parking lot's open now, which is just terrific. We're close, we are really close. So this is what the new bathhouse, when it's finished, is going to look like. It's going to be beautiful. It was designed after the bathhouse up at Herring Cove, and it's going to be wonderful. It's going to be bathrooms, showers, changing rooms, and then one of the buildings is the lifeguard building. So that's great. Next slide, please. Just kind of a close-up. You'll see a new stencil into the cedar shakes there. I think those are birds. Each building is going to have a nice stencil. So when it's done, it's really going to look very nice. And the current contractor we have working on it right now is very impressive, and we're all extremely thankful. Yeah, right? Okay. This is kind of a close-up. This is where the Eastham parking lot attendant resides from July 1st through the summer. This is the kind of the driveway that the Eastham taxpayers, they approach the parking lot there, and then they'll check your beach sticker. You have to have a current beach sticker, and then they'll direct you to where you park. Next slide. Okay. I'm sure a lot of you can, there's a lot of information on it, but basically this is just a breakdown of the various parking spaces who parks where. Let's see, on the left is Nauset Light, so the pink is Eastham taxpayers, and the green is the visiting public. And then on the right, Coast Guard Beach. This is not Little Creek, this is the upper one by the Coast Guard station. The blue is the handicap, the pink is the Eastham taxpayers, the green on the far left are lifeguards, and the little bit of green kind of in the middle, we just reserve that for our programs till 11 o'clock, and then we open up that area to the Eastham taxpayers as well. I'm sure I may have questions on that. Okay, great. Oh, Coast Guard Beach. So this, you drive over the bridge to get up to the upper lot, and what I want you to look at here, you'll see the top of the rail. That's new. If you had put your hand on that previous to us fixing it, you might have gotten a few splinters. No longer. It's, so we've taken care to repair that this year. Next slide. This is just a picture of our new path. I think most of you, it's not so new anymore, right? It's a couple years old because of the erosion, but we're happy to report people seem to enjoy this entrance. And of course, our famous Moby mats, which I saw on the Bayside beaches, which is fabulous, which is really helpful. So we're proud of this. And we were able to pull this together within a couple weeks when the other entrance failed because of erosion. So next slide. Some of you may or may not have noticed this, but we had to repair a small section of the Nauset Bike Trail that leads from our visitor center. There were a lot of roots, and we were spray painting them kind of like a fluorescent orange, and it got a little out of hand. So we had to redo. So we did that, but we also replaced a lot of the sidewalks as well at the visitor center too. So hopefully we got rid of most of the root hazard. Next. Oh, the fabulous bathroom. George Price, our previous superintendent, was very proud of this bathroom. So his legacy is continuing. You guys knew him, right? He was a great guy. So we redid the outside and the inside, so it's fabulous. This bathroom really never shuts down unless we have some sort of situation. So we're really proud we got this work done recently. And I think that might be all my slides today. There is. So I'm not sure if I take questions now or questions. Yes. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Are there any handicap spots at Nauset Lake? I didn't see any blue.
Yes, yeah, there are. I don't know how many off the top of my head, but there definitely is, yes. Oh, her question was, were there any handicap spots at Nauset Lake Beach? And yes, there are.
Okay, can I ask a question in response to that?
Sure.
So I was there last week with handicap placard.
Yeah.
And I have the Eastham sticker, but you couldn't, as a handicap car, you could not get to the Eastham handicapped spaces. And there were like 3 of them. So they were very good. The ranger got me to the general public handicap
Oh,
spot.
terrific.
Yes, it was very good. But
Yeah.
there was only one left, so obviously we took it.
Right.
But it was a shame that there was no way to get to the Eastham, because then if someone from the general public came, it would look like the Eastham people were not using the spaces that were available.
Do you know, is it blocked because of the fencing for the construction?
No, it was blocked because people are in line, Eastham residents are in line. But I would think there must be a way to address that.
Well, I'll check that out. I wasn't aware of that. So I'm a very visual person, so I'll have to go take a look. But I'll do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sir?
Yeah, I had just a question about the sharks.
Sure.
Keeping the guards do a great job at Coast Guard and also like. My understanding, and I could be wrong, is that the town beaches from Wellfleet up have buoys offshore that are giving information to the lifeguards that the national seashore beaches don't have. And if that's the case, I'd like to know why. I realize funding is a huge issue for you guys. You're, fighting against architecture stuff, you're fighting the people who want to fix the dikers and the Yellowstone. But I'd like to have an option.
Sure, absolutely. So those receivers, there's many receivers off of our beaches. Acoustic receivers are the receivers that Dr. Scomo, Atlantic White Conservancy, they pull every year and they download all of the data. The receivers you're talking about, those are called real-time receivers. And it is absolutely a pilot program. And as a matter of fact, in the beginning of last year, they failed. So the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy is working really hard with scientists to try to improve the real-time receiver technology. They put the buoys in. It's solar powered right now, but with the wave action on the ocean side, they're getting destroyed, and they're thousands of dollars. Now, if the real-time receiver makes it pass the pilot program and it's a viable tool, absolutely, we are going to invest in it. But right now, it needs to be a viable tool. And I just want to emphasize, it's a tool. Nobody should be deciding how they're going to recreate in the ocean based on technology, right? We're gonna all have to change our behavior, but it is a tool. It tells you right now when it's working and if it's accurate, if the tag sharks are swimming by, it'll send a ping to the lifeguards. Those are tag sharks. There's many sharks out there that are not tagged. So I just want to make sure we completely understand that. But yes, when it's ready, that is an investment that we're excited to make.
Hi, I'm Thompson. I live at Nauset Lake Beach Road, and I know there's several of my neighbors here. Our main power pole is approximately 8 to 10 feet from a 50-foot dune, and we've been trying for years, working with the park rangers, the town of Eastham, and Eversource to get that pole moved, because it's really a safety issue for all of the homes on that road. It is so close to the edge, and I just wanted to highlight that as a concern.
Okay, thank you. Question? Sir?
Yeah, over the last weekend, I was at Nauset Lake Beach twice, and the Eastham taxpayers sticker, like drive-through, there were 2 cars one time and 1 car.
Find you. If you have a very long driveway and we can't see them, we're gonna have a delayed response. Our GPSs are good, but sometimes, as you know, they can be off. We want to be able to find you. So if you have a very long driveway and we can't see your house from the road, if you could put your house number out on the street on a post about 3 feet high so that it doesn't get covered over by the snow, that would be extremely helpful in that way. But you also have to have them on the house. Okay? We're having, trying to deal with, there's a little bit of a, up on the highway, on State Highway, there's a lot of houses, cottage colonies that are back that we don't know what range of numbers they are. So I'm working with the condo association to try and get house numbers out on the highway. With that, that really helps us find you, because the department's very busy, and we also have a lot of mutual aid coming in. We also go mutual aid to other towns. The other surrounding towns that come in to help us need to be able to find you also. It's very, very important. And then the last thing I do want to talk about is lock boxes. For anybody that has, the town did pass this bylaw also, anybody that has a fire alarm system that is monitored by an alarm company or a medical alarm that's monitored by someone, it's now required that you have a lockbox on your home. We require it. It is, I do have one here, and if anybody wants to take a look at it. It's a box that we're able to put on your home that has a key for your house. The only department that has that key to open up that box is the fire department. It's a specially made key from Kidda that we get from them. This is going to allow us access into your home on the off season, or if your alarm system is going off and you're not home. If we can't get in to see what's going on, there could be an issue in the basement that we don't know about. This really came to light during our storm in February. When the power started to get put back on, we were getting alarms, which will sometimes happen. But there were a number of homes that we couldn't get into to see if there was an issue from the power being restored, maybe with the panel, or whether it was just because of the power interruption, the alarm system was resetting. we can go around the house. What we would do, make a 360 of the house, make sure that we can't see, you know, if there's anything going on in the home. But if you have a key, we'd be able to get into that home and make sure that there's nothing going on inside that home. It's very important. We had a number of them, and we're like, we're not going to break a door down for an alarm, but it would be very helpful with that. So help us find you in an emergency. That's my big mantra now.
Lisa, why don't you tell them where they can get the box?
Thank you. The boxes, the lock boxes we have for sale at the fire station, the Firemen's Association was able to purchase, they purchase our boxes for us. Come to the station, you give us your name, where we need to put the lock box, your location, emergency contact numbers. The box is $50. It's just to cover the cost of the box. If we need to, if it's a, we've done this with some of the businesses where they have a number of keys, they actually go to Kidder and actually purchase a bigger box. But most residentials, we have a small box, it's a specially made door, but come to the fire station, give the station a call. We can do that. It'll either be myself coming out to put them on or someone from the shift. And we just ask that you have a key to the door, make sure that it works. We'll put it on your home and then put the key in it, lock it up, and you don't even see it.
Just a quick comment on your, how to find us, the new access road by the lighthouse. It's been approximately a year since the new road's been in. Google Maps still does not have the new access road.
Correct.
Tried to work with Google Maps and it's been unsuccessful. But it would be hard, frequently people get lost and they don't know how to get up there.
Right, so as far as our department, back when I was on shift as a captain, when that road was put in, special emails were sent out to all of our members as far as if you have to access Nauset Lake Beach Road, these numbers, you go to the right at the end of the road, and these numbers, you go to the left. So we try to get that out to at least all of our members. But you're completely correct, it is not on Google.
Who we should talk to if there's a street sign issue?
You could, if it's a street sign issue, you could either come to us, you call us, or email either the chief or myself with the town website, our contact information. I know I've talked to a few people here email-wise about some smoke detector issues. So our emails are out there. You can always email us, and we can be in contact with the DPW regarding that. Sir?
And now, one of our select board members, Amy Ekman, is going to speak for a second, and then I will go. And I will try and be quick.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming out on this gorgeous day. Get out here soon. But I just wanted to thank the group for all the contributions you have made, to the town of Eastham. I know not living here, not everybody gets a vote, but we try to, to listen to whatever any of our taxpayers have to say. And with that, I'd like to talk about everyone's favorite subject, the residential tax exemption. And just, assure everyone that we have a policy, the board has a policy, that unless the shift in non-residents goes above 60% of the town for 2 years, we will not raise or change the tax exemption status currently. We will continue to talk about it every January, so because we have to. So don't be alarmed that we're talking about it. Feel free to give us your input and attend the meetings and watch what we're talking about. But we get some people that seem to panic every January that we're talking about it, and why are we talking about this again, and, you know. But we will continue to talk about it, and we're you know, struggling to find ways to keep people here, you know, that provide critical services for our town. Our police and fire departments are, you know, constantly looking for people because we just can't find enough people to fill those positions. So we're trying to come up with alternatives to the residential tax exemption. In the meantime, we have family support packages, we have a lot of other things that we're really, you know, trying to use to encourage people to live and stay here. And any of you could move here permanently anytime you want. You're welcome now. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. So Melanie just came in from the trustees meeting, and she's going to just say a couple of things about what's going on at the library. You get to meet her, hopefully not for the first time, but in this setting for the first time as our library director for almost a year.
A year in September.
A year in September. All right.
Sorry about that. Can you all hear me okay? Great. Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Melanie McKenzie. I joined as the Eastham Library Director in September 2021, and it's an absolute privilege to serve this community. We are really in full swing of summer at the library. We are having a very busy past few weeks, and we have a full schedule of events ahead of us, so I'm really excited to share some of what we've been up to with you. We kicked off our summer reading program on June 20th, and we really kicked it off officially at the summer kickoff and ice cream social event planned by a few different town departments and spearheaded by Lauren Barker over there. We were able to sign up over 30 youth for our summer reading program at that event, and we gave away over 50 free books generously donated by our Friends of the Library group, so that was a really spectacular event for us. We currently have over 100 participants signed up for our summer reading program. And there are only a few hundred youth actually registered that live in Eastham, so that's a huge number for us. That's really wonderful. As I mentioned, we have a lot of really fun events coming up for the rest of the summer. This Tuesday, we have the Oath the Day drumming circle program happening at the library. It's going to be a really fun, collaborative, intergenerational event. This Thursday, the 14th, we have our first international film series showing. That'll be Babette's Feast, and we have that every Thursday going for the next few months in the summer. Fran, our youth services librarian, has a bunch of really wonderful family programs lined up. We have the Pitter Patter Puppets performing on July 19th, Mr. Vinny's Giant Bubble Show happening on July 26th, and a really fun intergenerational ukulele workshop happening with Julie Stepanek on August 4th. Our new hire staff librarian, Corey Ferencamp, is running his second Mario Kart tournament on August 4th, so please join us for that with our new Switch gaming system that we purchased this year. And so we're really excited to be able to have that, the second one. The first one was really successful. A little bit about some other things that we're doing this summer. I'm sure you all know that you can come to the library for the latest and greatest summer read. But did you know that we also have 12 Wi-Fi hotspots that we circulate? We have a circulating telescope, we have museum passes to regional museums, we have a new adult video game and graphic novel collections, as well as video games and graphic novels for youth and kids. We also have My Own Backyard Moby science kits that you can circulate as well to have some fun outside with your kids. And we also circulate puzzles and board games if you want to have some fun inside for the summer. So please come and stop by and check out all of our great and fabulous resources. If there's something that you're not seeing that you're interested in seeing us circulate at the library, please come talk to us about it. We're always open to new ideas. Thank you so much for being part of this amazing community. It's really an honor to serve you all. Thank you so much.
Wow, it's hard to follow that. And she's a speed talker, too. So I just want to touch upon a few things, answer some questions that were already asked, and then well, answer any questions that you have, basically. So our challenge, what our town is really focused on now, and you can see the energy that we have, and I only brought a little bit of it. There's a lot more behind us, but The select board, the FinCom, the entire town is mobilized around our strategic plan. And if you haven't looked at the strategic plan or the goals involved in that, it is available on the website, our new website. You can just Google, I mean not Google, you can just search in the search bar and it'll come up and you can look at the strategic plan. But it's a balance, you know, the gentleman who asked a question. Our strategic plan is a balance of trying to address the issues that we have, trying to protect the environment that we consider so precious, to keep our rural character, but also advance some services. So it's a huge challenge and it's a huge balancing act, but that's what all of our initiatives, including the master plan, are built around. So I just wanted to say that to you. We're being very intentional about that. The 4 topics that I want to talk to you about are coming up, and basically our whole town meeting this year was organized around them. Wastewater, what we call the Route 6 problem, our 5-year housing plan, and our economic development and master plan, which Lauren took some time to talk about, so I won't spend as much time on that. Our goal is to move all 4 of these initiatives together so that we coalesce into a plan that is forward-thinking, not too expansive, again, a balance, but none of them can survive without the other. So that is my particular challenge as the leader of this team, is to try and keep all 4 of those initiatives moving together in kind of lockstep so that they advise each other as we go. Wastewater, it now is the time for wastewater, and as you know, Eastham has been delaying that. We've been, you know, if you watch the movie Finding Nemo with your grandkids, you know, we've been delay fish. So we've been trying to slow wastewater down so that we could let all the other communities explore all the advanced technologies, and we could come in at the last minute and pick the best one. That's where we are now. And the stars have aligned for us because there are lots of new monies coming into wastewater, so we are hoping to put together a wastewater package that will not shock you, and although it will cost money, it will be it'll be balanced, and we'll have some resources to pay for it, and I'll explain that later. Right now, we're working on a draft targeted watershed management plan, which will include a very small wastewater collection system, as well as some innovative alternative systems for certain areas, and as well as some new technologies like we have placed around the salt pond, permeable reactive barriers. So all of those are being studied this year. We hope to get that plan to the Department of Environmental Protection next spring, and it should be starting to get funded within the next couple of years. The good news is that we have 3 new funding sources that we can apply to this. One is your short-term rental tax, and I'll talk more about that, but that is close to $1 million a year. That is going to go to wastewater at some point for the debt service involved in that. We also have the county 2.75% tax that will give us 25% of any wastewater costs in addition to what we can put into it. And the state of Massachusetts has now just made a decision to change their Title V regulations and designate the Cape and Islands as an area that's worthy of $200 million in state funds for wastewater. And that's why, folks, we have to do it now. So all of that is really quite good news. It's not bad, and we're ready to start moving forward with that. It has to be big enough to handle the problems that we have in some of our watershed areas, small enough to not cost a lot of money, but to give us a little bit of capacity for the future and a plan for 50 years from now. Okay, so that's basically the box that we're trying to find the sweet spot of. Route 6, is an endemic problem, and this particular select board just got tired of it. They really did, and they said, you know, everyone says we can't do anything about it, but maybe we can do something about it, so let's try. And so we are. So our newest strategy is to hire some engineers, traffic engineers, to take a good look at the data and look at what we can and can't do with Route 6 based on Department of Transportation regulations. So we are embarking on that study. That's one of our 4 projects. And we're also combining some complete streets look. So we're going to be looking at cycling lanes and combining those with a sidewalk type thing. So it'll be a cycling lane on some of our roads, prioritizing some of the high travel roads right now. So we have Samoset, we have Brackett, and of course we have to at some point look at Herringbrook and Bridge. But the Route 6 study hopefully will give us the data that we need to go to our legislative delegation, go to the State Department of Transportation and say, can we partner with you to make some changes that will allow traffic to flow, but also give Eastham a little reprieve from having a highway bisector town. And the third one is our housing plan and our services for families. And I want to reassure you that we've taken a very close look and a very comprehensive look at housing. We don't want a ton of large, newly built, affordable housing developments. That's not what the housing plan is looking to do. The housing plan is looking to take a comprehensive view of what we used to have on Cape Cod and what we don't have now, which is rental units. And we used to have garage apartments, and we used to have small cottages, and we used to have accessory dwelling units, and there were lots of alternatives for people to live. And now we've obviously moved to a single-family, larger single-family home residential pattern that works perfectly well, but it is taking away some of those other things that we used to have. So we're trying to fill in those gaps by encouraging people, incentivizing the use of accessory dwelling units, garage apartments, small units of housing, redevelopment of existing properties that might be blighted or just we're growing out of them. Cottage colonies and motels can be converted into other forms of smaller housing, right? So we're doing that comprehensive look, and at town meeting we passed 4 new zoning bylaws. One is encouraging more density in some areas if you also include some open space that's designated. One allows the development of duplexes in certain areas. One asks housing developers, if they're going to develop a property, to include some affordable or workforce housing in it. And then many, many alternative programs that we're looking at that will encourage home ownership, down payment assistance programs, all kinds of things like that. So it's a wide range, it goes across income levels, and we're especially trying to focus on the workforce. Not necessarily people who don't have jobs, but people who are either downsizing, seniors, or people who are actively working and just can't get a rental unit because there aren't any. This year, we used 100% of the short-term rental income, or $1 million, towards that housing plan, and we received $500,000 in CPA funds. So this year alone, the town is spending $1.5 million just on our housing efforts. That includes purchasing 2 pieces of property. One is the thrift shop that's on Massasoit Road, the corner of Massasoit, which has the thrift shop on the bottom level, and the top level is a housing unit. We're going to redo that housing unit. leave the thrift shop where it is. The other is 2555 State Highway, which is currently the Beach Club Motor Lodge. It's directly across from the police fire campus. And it has a single-family home, and it has 4 motel units in the back. We're going to be hiring someone to tell us what we can do with those 4 in the back, and renting out the main house. We have 2 properties that we've taken by tax title that need renovation. I'm trying to think of what else we've done this year. And we're developing a lot of programs with the Affordable Housing Trust that will extend those income levels so that we can deal with workforce as opposed to just the affordable level. And in terms of family support programs, this year we've expanded. We took in the after-school program. So the after-school program at the elementary school, which was run by a nonprofit, is now being run by the town. And we have expanded our summer program, if you have grandkids, for a full-day program. So it runs from 7:30 to 5:30 at night. And we have after-school programming now until 5:30. I'm not going to go over economic development because Lauren did. We're 2/3 complete with the water project. I know no one wants to talk about that anymore. I'm hoping because it's so successful. 2 years left. We have last tower, a new well, and 2 water main contracts to go, and we will be done. We are trending a little bit ahead of schedule and a little over $12 million under budget right now, which I hope will be able to be put into road resurfacing. So all of those phase 1 private roads, some of which you live on, private and public roads in phase 1 should be totally redone within 2 years. So the only exception to that would be maybe roads that we've identified that may be needed to be torn up for wastewater. So that might be a little bit of a delay, but other than that, we'll do it. The Nauset High School renovations, I know that that's sort of on people's radar. It is out to bid right now. We have no idea what the bidding climate will be for a project of this nature, but we do have over 100 sub-bidders so far, so that's a good sign that it's still competitive out there for a project that's, of course, $140 million. That would excite me if I was a contractor. We should get the bids back August 3rd, and then we'll know where we are. So we're cautiously optimistic that it'll come in within our budget. We don't have an alternative if not, so we would have to either cut things or go back out to bid. But if you'll start to see activity at the school because we're doing site work now for the 36 months of construction. We have a lot of portable classrooms that are coming on site, so you're going to start seeing that work, and then construction there would start in the fall. I'm going to move to my last page. Someone asked me about new revenue, and I just want to talk about the short-term rental tax because I know that that is really the place where you're contributing so much, a lot of you, to our revenue stream. The Board of Selectmen or the Select Board made a decision a few years ago not to use that money in the operating budget, but to use it for 3 things. One was to get our reserves in a place where we could get our AAA bond rating back. That's accomplished. We have significant reserves now, enough. To use it for capital infrastructure and to use it for housing. So basically right now, our short-term rental tax that you are contributing is a little under $1 million a year. That will go right now into capital and housing, and then as soon as wastewater starts, I'm expecting that it'll all be directed in that direction for a few years. Marijuana tax is a little bit trickier. So This year is our first year of collections. The current year that we're in is going to be the first full year. One of our marijuana businesses is not only broken even, but is now experiencing a profit. They have to make more than $3 million to start producing a profit, and they made $4 million in their first 10 months. So they're doing great. One of them is started a little slower. So the marijuana tax is predictably going to bring another $500,000 to the town, as it is right now that we're looking at. We are, again, very hesitant to use that money in the operating budget, so it's being reserved right now. Half of it is a continuous source of income that will continue as long as the businesses operate. Half of it is a 3-year agreement with the new businesses to give us some extra money for those first 3 years. So until we know where we are, we're going to be conservative about those revenues. In this year's budget, the only place we have spent them is to dedicate some money to a new service for having an additional paramedic on days to do some of our frequent flyer. Lots of people call 911 for a lot of reasons that aren't technically emergencies, and we have to go out and assess those cases. And so we're going to be hiring a person who specializes in going out and assessing those cases. Don't worry, if you're having a heart attack and you dial 911, the ambulance will still come to your house. But if someone says, I fell out of bed, we're going to send that person. And then we have a part-time social worker who's going to be designing a program around that. So again, we have emergency services and we have sort of long-term services on Cape Cod. This is that niche in between where we're going to take someone, a couple of people that will assess a little more deeply than an emergency, but not stay with it very long, connect the person up to appropriate services and then come back. That'll be piloted this fall. I was also asked a question about the impact of the new medical center in Orleans. That's going to have a dramatic impact on Orleans because they have to provide the emergency services, and anytime you have a clinic like that, you have a high influx of more emergencies. So the ambulance is going to be going there. When Orleans goes there, then we have to cover Orleans. So does it impact the area? Absolutely. It shouldn't impact us negatively because we actually create revenue that way by doing those kinds of ambulance runs. So it should be fine, but of course, we can't be sure. The question on Nauset Lake Beach Road, I just want to go into. I have been in contact with someone at Eversource. We are back to working on that. I've sort of got my contact working with the engineering department there. And the land exchange requires an act of Congress, literally. So we are now working on all the easements and the land swapping process, which is we're probably 2 years into a 7-year process before it can be enacted by Congress. But the National Park Service and the town of Eastham work very well together. We're neighbors, we're friends, and they have issued us a license to build the road, to maintain the road, and to do what's necessary in the road. So we shouldn't have to worry about the ownership of it because we have a license to do what we need to do in the interim. I'm going to go to questions. Yes, we will include Massasoit Road in the study for bridge sidewalk, for bicycle and sidewalk improvement. And, it is a narrow road, and all over town I've noticed that, people are not, I don't want to say they're aggressive drivers. I think on our side roads, you really can't drive over 25 miles an hour. There's just too much going on, and we need to take a look at that. Notice that some newly repaved roads have a lip on the edge to help with drainage, but others, including our road, does not. Why is that? I am not sure. I will check. We have a new pond. This is a question about toxic algae blooms. And we have a State of Our Ponds workshop coming up. We are actively treating all of our ponds. So that is part of our wastewater efforts and has been. 60-40 split based on, I'm sorry, I'm going into stream of consciousness now instead of answering. I think someone is asking a question about the 60-40 split of residents versus part-time residents based on data from what source? It's collected annually. It's based on who is living here as of January 1st of each year. That is what our assessment data is based on, January 1st. So if you put a new kitchen on your house in November, we will assess that value January 1st of the next year. If you do it in June, it has to wait until January 1st. So we use our own data that's given to us by you. Power system. So we did a betterment for private roads that need electric upgrades. So for instance, if we found out that there are 64 roads in Eastham that have private utilities, how would you know that? You wouldn't until your power goes out and you call Eversource and they say, oh, I'm sorry, we can't fix it, it's a private utility. And you go, oh my God. So that happened to Thoreau Drive, and Thoreau Drive has 28 houses on it. I believe 21 are affected by this issue. The developer built the road, put in an electric utility, and then forgot to turn it over to Eversource. So now that it's 35 years old, Eversource is not at all interested in it. They would prefer not to own it until it's upgraded, and then they will gladly take it on. So the residents are like, oh my God, what do we do? It's about $120,000 to upgrade this utility. So we, the select board and I went to town meeting with a suggestion that we create a betterment program to help. So the town will we got a piece of special legislation and it did pass, thank God. So we can now help those residents by doing the engineering, negotiating with Comcast, doing the actual construction, and then the residents will pay us either immediately or they can pay a betterment over time, and that is established now, and we're working on that Thoreau Drive issue right now. And yes, the future for town sewers is going to be in a small area. I don't know which area will be covered right now, but it's South Eastham. So South Eastham is our troubled area in terms of wastewater because of the Nauset estuary and the ponds. So that's where wastewater treatment is going to be focused around ponds and the estuary. Regardless of town or private ownership, the paving schedule is financing. It's all about money. Honestly, we try and do as many miles of roads as we can each year. The water project has given us a great opportunity to both rip up your roads, but also to repave them. And so we're going to take that opportunity as long as we can, because we have the funds to do so. In the meantime, we get about $300,000 a year from the state to do roads, and then the town contributes the rest. So we just prioritize roads and drainage and do a few projects every year. We are going to be doing a couple of pivotal intersection redos this next year as well. So, will the tea time and town center properties have pedestrian connections and paved paths to the bike trail? Yes. Maybe not paved to the bike trail because we have to go over the Commonwealth, the electric easement, but they will be paths. Does the town have a policy or process to ensure compliance with Mass State prohibition on assault weapons at Nauset Rod and Gun Club? Yes. However, I will warn you that every time there is a specific assault weapon type that is called out by the state regulations, there is a gun manufacturer that will work around that and create something new. So it is an ongoing challenge. But I've been visiting the Nauset Run Gun Club a couple of times a year, each year, just trying to develop a relationship with their board. I find them very, very willing to listen and to work with the town, and they are very safety conscious as a group. I think they're actually the safest group with guns that we probably have, and I don't mean that facetiously at all. I think some of the members really care about the safety of weapons, and they go to great lengths to ensure it. It is loud. And I live on Schoolhouse Road, and I hear it. If the wind is blowing in a certain direction, on a Sunday morning, I can hear the Nauset Rod and Gun Club.
So I would just mention that 2 weeks ago we were here, and they were definitely using automatic weapons at the gun. We live on Sullivan's Drive, which is very close.
Yeah.
So you could hear it in our living room. You could sit and hear them with automatic weapons at the Rod and Gun Club. So I just.
Yeah, they do have rifle sections, and I can find out for you when they are. But
these are automatic weapons. You can't fire 25 shots in a minute unless you have an automatic weapon. So.
okay. Any plans to expand the use of lockboxes to the police? You can use the security systems or break-ins that make access easy. I'm sure that we can, since our 911 system, it dispatches for both the police and fire. If there's an alarm going off, then police could also go to the house with fire. That's definitely possible.
We do have some of the, on some of our calls, the police do respond, but these were specifically designed for fire departments, emergency services, to access your homes. The fire department is the only one that has the key to open these doors. Have we had instances where someone's locked themselves out of their house? They have a lockbox. We will go down, but we will also go down with the police to verify that that is the person that belongs to that home. The last thing we want to do is let the burglar in.
That would be bad.
It's too much paperwork.
What is East Ham's current affordable housing percentage? I believe it's 6.5 or something like that. We should be at 10%. The state doesn't have a requirement, but they do have the 10% that's identified by the state is to prevent developers from coming in and doing a project without our consent. So that 10% is important. For every, I think, 13 units we produce, we get a year's grace period. So just so you know, the 65 units that we did gave us a good cushion. How can I, as an owner of a small seasonal cottage, find out what, if anything, I can do to convert to year-round under recently passed bylaw about cottage colony conversions? You can definitely call the town planner, Paul Lag, who's also the community development director. It's really about, my guess is, septic capacity on a lot. So the wastewater plant may also help this. If you are in an area that wastewater is going to go by, then that would absolutely allow you to convert to year-round use. I don't honestly know why we have decided that seasonal cottages use less wastewater than year-round residences, because it is absolutely not true. So, especially if they're well-used seasonal cottages. But anyway, Tara, hang in there, because we may have a plan within a year or so that might identify something. And I thank you so much for your beautiful affirmation. When I receive town notices regarding proposed or permitted work on an abutters property, what opportunities do I have to follow up on the proposed plans? That is, if I receive notice, what rights do I have to protest that work or get more information? You have absolute rights. So what we are doing when we notify you is telling you as a direct abutter that there is a public hearing happening to determine whether or not this plan will move forward. And you can, because we are now virtual, you can attend the meeting virtually if you so choose. You can, I would encourage you to call again, Paul Lagg, the Community Development Director, it's L-A-G-G, and ask him about it because he can get you a set of plans if you don't already have those. And you can also comment in writing, which I think would be probably even more powerful. So I would say as soon as you receive an abutters notice, that's a notice that you have 2 weeks. And so you got to get on it, call Paul, get the plans, take a look at what's being proposed, listen in on the meeting. Depending on what type of regulatory meeting it is, it may be one meeting, it may be, if it's the Conservation Commission, in my recent experience, it could be 12 meetings. So it could be fast or it could be the slow boat, so, but definitely jump right on it. And I think that's all the questions. I'm sorry if we did a lot of speed talking. But thank you.
There were 2 other questions. Could the links mentioned regarding the master plan be noted in the newsletter? And we'll try to do that. Can the winter meeting be hybrid? Some of us can't attend in person, and we are planning on having a Zoom meeting next February, and then an in-person again in July. So I'd like to thank all of you for coming today and for staying as long as you did. I think all of the information was very valuable, and all of the questions that you had were outstanding. Today is Sue Connor's last meeting. She's been here for over a decade, running the show in various capacities, and we would like to thank her for her commitment to the board and for all that she's done.
Thank you all. It's been a pleasure to be able to be part of this group and to help move things forward over the years. And I've always been impressed with the fact that we, as a group, have been able to work with the town officials in a collegial kind of atmosphere as opposed to an adversarial relationship, which takes place in other towns. They've been always open to listening to us and vice versa. We thank you, and I thank you all for the friendships that I have made, and for the people now that are going to run the show. I wish you all luck. And these are beautiful things.
Meeting is adjourned. Have a great day.